Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. Imagine this scene with me. A funeral in a small village in the heart of Menoufia. A modest house filled with people coming to offer condolences, voices hushed, grief covering the place like a black cloud. Everyone is offering sympathy, tears fill the eyes of family and neighbors, and people are sharing their memories of the deceased, a man loved by everyone. In the middle of this crowd, a little girl, Fatma, 7 years old, not really understanding what's going on around her, is holding her mother's phone and playing with it innocently, like any child her age. Suddenly, one of the deceased's friends, Mahmoud, a man who was very close to him, notices something strange. The mother, Sama, who's supposed to be drowning in sorrow for her dead husband, suddenly shouts at the girl in a strange way and quickly snatches the phone from her hand, as if there's a dangerous secret hidden inside it. With his sharp instinct, Mahmoud felt something was off. His suspicion made him act, and in a quick, clever move, he took the phone without anyone noticing, unlocked the password, and there it was. The ultimate shock. What he found in that phone was more than just ordinary messages. It was undeniable evidence of a horrific crime. A crime that shook the village of El May in the Sheben El Kham district in 2019. A respectable man praised by all the villagers for his manners and kindness had died a slow death, a death carefully planned with extreme precision. But the truth, as we always say, no matter how much it's hidden, must eventually come to light. Today, we'll tell the story of Antar, a man who lived a life full of loyalty and devotion, but unfortunately, the people closest to him betrayed his trust in the ugliest way possible. And before we begin our story, don't forget to like and share this episode so it can reach as many people as possible. And if you're someone who loves Indian crime stories, subscribe to the other channel so you never miss anything new. You'll find the link in the description box. Without further delay, let's dive deep into our story. This story began many years ago, specifically in 2003, when Antar, still a young man of 17, lost his father. Antar, the son of the village of El May, in the Sheben El Kham district of Menoufia Governorate, was just starting his life, but circumstances forced him to take on responsibilities far greater than his age. His father was a simple man who worked in agriculture and owned a small plot of land in the village. After his father's death, Antar found himself responsible for his mother, Sherbat, and his sisters. In 2004, he decided to travel to Libya, a country far from his home and family, to build his future and secure his family's well-being. In Libya, he worked as a marble craftsman, a trade that demanded effort and patience. Antar was hardworking, starting at dawn and working until sunset, and thanks to his dedication, he managed to save a good amount of money. From 2004 to 2007, he succeeded in marrying off his 3 sisters, ensuring they lived respectable, comfortable lives. Each one married a decent man, and Antar felt he had achieved something great. At the end of 2007, he decided to return to El May to continue working there and settle in his hometown. At that time, he was 22 years old, full of ambition to start a family and live a peaceful life. In early 2008, Antar met Sama, a young woman from the same village. She was 19 years old and held a technical industrial diploma from a school in Sheben El Kham. Sama was beautiful, ambitious, and there was instant chemistry between her and Antar from the very first day. They met at a family gathering in the village, and from the first glance, they felt there was something special between them. Their love story was like something out of a romantic movie, full of passion and dreams. Sama saw in Antar the dependable man who could give her a stable life, and Antar saw in Sama the woman who would be his life partner. Everyone in El May talked about them, convinced their marriage would be a happy one. On June 15, 2008, they were married in a simple village celebration attended by family and neighbors. They began their life together in a small house in El May, dreaming of a future full of hope. Antar was a man in every sense of the word. He worked hard in marble craftsmanship, returned home to have dinner with Sama and the children, and then went to visit his mother, Sherbat, who was 54 years old at the time of the 2019 incident. Sherbat worked in the medical sector, selling medical supplies at Sheben El-Kam University Hospital, and she always loved to hear from Antar and check on him. She saw him every day, and they would talk about everything: his work, his children, and his dreams. Antar loved his mother deeply and made sure to visit her every day after work. Over time, God blessed Antar and Sama with 3 children, 2 boys, Ahmed and Mohammed, and a daughter named Fatma. They lived a good life. Antar tried to provide them with everything, even sending Sama to perform Umrah twice with his family, once in 2012 and once in 2016. But in 2018, the family suffered a huge shock. Their youngest son, Mohammed, who had a severe liver condition, passed away. This was a devastating blow to both Antar and Sama. Sama had been taking her son to a doctor in a nearby village for treatment and visited frequently. Mohammed's death left a deep wound in her heart, and Antar was also deeply affected. Still, he tried to keep her strong, and himself as well, so they could carry on with life. At that time, a new friend entered Antar's life, Masad, a 30-year-old man with a law degree from Menoufia University, but working in something rather unusual: sorcery and magic. Masad was very intelligent, but his intelligence was directed toward evil. He often visited Antar's home. They would sit together, drink tea, and talk like any friends would. He would tell Antar about his work and about the people who came to him to be treated from supposed magic or jinn possession. Antar trusted him, seeing him as a loyal friend. In January 2019, after 11 years of marriage, Sama began to feel unhappy with Antar. She thought he was slow to understand, not meeting her emotional and personal needs. Antar, on the other hand, was under a lot of pressure. Marble work was physically demanding, and he had the responsibility of providing for his family and covering the expenses for their children. The death of their son Mohammed in 2018 had further cooled their relationship. Sama began to feel she needed someone else, someone intelligent, who understood her and fulfilled her desires. That's when her eyes fell on Masad, who was always around the house. She started to see in him the charm and intelligence she felt Antar lacked. To her, Masad, with his wit and charisma, was the one who could understand her and give her the life she wanted. In February 2019, Samad decided to take the first step toward betrayal. She began deliberately wearing revealing clothes in front of Masad when he was at the house. She would serve him coffee or tea with flirtatious glances, trying to get closer to him in indirect ways. She made sure to be alone with him for moments, even if Antar was in the house. Masad, cunning and knowing exactly what was happening, began to respond. On March 10, 2019, while Antar was busy with a phone call in another room, Sama seized the opportunity. She served coffee to Masad and made her interest clear through her gaze. Masad saw the desire in her eyes, and that was when their illicit relationship began. At first, it was phone calls and secret WhatsApp chats every night after Antar went to sleep. Sama made sure no one suspected anything, and Masad acted like he was just a friend visiting his buddy. But Sama wanted more. She wanted Masad to come to the house when Antar wasn't there. The problem was, how could she make that happen without raising suspicion? In April 2019, Sama began thinking of a clever plan. She decided to pretend she was afflicted by magic or possessed by jinn. On the night of April 15th, 2019, she started screaming in the living room in the middle of the night, telling Antar she had seen a red jinn standing at the apartment door. Antar, the good-hearted man who never doubted his wife, believed her and told her to seek refuge in God from the devil. Sama repeated this story several times in late April and early May 2019 until Antar became convinced something supernatural was going on. She acted extremely frightened, claiming to feel strange sensations in her body. In June 2019, worried about his wife, Antar decided to seek help from his friend Masad, who was known in the village for breaking spells. Masad, who had understood Sama's plan from the very first moment, told Antar that she truly had a jinn possession and that he could treat her, but it would take time and multiple sessions. And so began the fake treatment sessions, which were in reality just a cover for their illicit affair. In July 2019, the relationship between Sama and Masad became much stronger. They started meeting at Antar's house even when he was there, taking advantage of any opportunity when he was busy or out. Sama devised clever plans to make sure no one would suspect anything. She would call Masad at night, they would talk for hours, and plan how to spend time together without Antar noticing. In late July 2019, they decided to take a bigger step. Masad went to a friend who worked at a pharmacy in Shebin el Kham named Ahmed and asked him for a strong sedative. The plan was for Sama to put the sedative in Antar's food or drink so he would sleep, giving them the chance to spend time together. On July 25, 2019, Sama prepared dinner for Antar, and Masad slipped the sedative into Antar's plate. Antar ate and slept like a rock, and right there, Sama and Masad engaged in their illicit relationship in the same house, while Antar slept beside them, completely unaware. By August 2019, this relationship became more than just an affair. Sama and Masad began to feel they wanted to be together permanently, without Antar in their lives. They started thinking of a horrific idea: how to get rid of Antar for good. In early September 2019, Sama and Masad sat together and made a plan to kill him. They discussed how they could live their lives freely without anyone in their way. Masad suggested using poison so that the death would be slow and not arouse suspicion. Sama agreed, and on September 5, 2019, Masad went to Ahmed the pharmacist and asked him for a slow-acting poison so the death would appear natural. Ahmed, who already knew Masad had a habit of asking for strange things, warned him that the poison needed to be administered in small doses over a long period to avoid obvious signs of murder. Sama and Masad agreed to the plan and decided to start immediately. On October 1st, 2019, Sama began putting poison in Antar's food. Every day when he came home from his marble work, she would prepare his dinner and add a small dose of the poison. At first, Antar felt mild stomach cramps that came and went. He thought it was just ordinary indigestion, and Sama would reassure him, saying, "It's just mild cramps. They'll go away on their own." But the poison was slowly working in his body, affecting his organs one by one. On October 3, 2019, the cramps became worse, but Antar still believed it was something minor. Sama would call Sherbat, his mother, to reassure her that Antar was fine, telling her he was just a little unwell from food. But Sherbat, who always worried about her son, started to feel something was wrong. On October 5, 2019, Antar's condition worsened. He felt constant pain in his abdomen, and his body began to weaken. Sherbat called Sama and told her, "Take Antar to a doctor, he looks very unwell." Sama kept stalling, saying, "We already went for a checkup, it's just mild inflammation." But Sherbat wasn't convinced. On October 7, 2019, she insisted that Sama take him to the Shebin El Kham public hospital so she could see for herself. At that point, Sama realized things were getting risky, so she decided to play a smarter game. She agreed with Masad to take Antar to a fake doctor they had arranged with, a man named Ehab. On October 9, 2019, they took Antar to Ehab, who examined him and told him he had stomach inflammation caused by food and water, and that he would recover if he took the prescribed medicine. Antar believed him, and Sama called Sherbat to reassure her. But when Sherbat asked for the doctor's name, Sama dodged the question and couldn't give an answer. On October 10, 2019, Antar's condition became much worse. He began losing weight, his face turned pale, and it was clear he was very ill. Sherbat, who spoke to Sama every day, began to feel something was not right. On October 11, 2019, she called Sama and said, "We have to take Antar to a public hospital. I'm very worried about him." Sama tried to avoid it, but Sherbat insisted. At this point, Sama and Masad decided to end their plan quickly before the matter was exposed. On October 12, 2019, Masad invited Antar for a fish meal at their home, adding a larger dose of poison than usual to the food. Antar ate the fish, and that same night, he felt extremely severe abdominal pain. His family tried to take him to Shebin El Kham Government Hospital, but unfortunately, on October 13, 2019, as soon as he arrived at the hospital, he had already passed away. The initial diagnosis stated it was a natural death, and a burial permit was issued. Antar was buried the same day, and everyone in El May believed it was just an ordinary death. But Antar's mother, Sherbat, was not convinced at all. She felt there was something wrong with Sama, especially since Sama did not appear to be grieving like any wife would after losing her husband of 11 years. Moreover, on the day of the funeral, Sama was asking about Antar's ID card and property documents, such as the small plot of farmland he had inherited from his father. This only increased Sherbat's suspicions. On the day of the mourning gathering, October 20, 2019, the moment came that changed everything. Mahmoud, Antar's close friend, was present at the gathering. He noticed that Fatma, Sama's young daughter, was holding her mother's phone and playing with it. Suddenly, Sama yelled at the girl and pushed her to snatch the phone back from her hands. Mahmoud felt there was a secret in that phone. Taking advantage of the crowd at the gathering, he quietly took the phone without anyone noticing. When he unlocked it and accessed the password, the shock came. He found long conversations between Sama and Masad filled with details about their illicit relationship and, even more dangerously, their agreement to kill Antar with poison. They had planned every step: the fake medical visits, the sleeping pills, and the poison they had put in his food. Mahmoud didn't wait. He went straight to Sherbat the same day and told her everything. Sherbat, who worked at Shebin El Kham University Hospital, didn't wait either. On October 20, 2019, she rushed to the El May police station and filed a report against Sama and Masad. The police moved quickly. On October 21, 2019, they issued an arrest warrant for Sama and Masad and ordered the exhumation of Antar's body for forensic examination. The investigation began immediately and was extremely complex. Detectives at the Shebin El Kham Police Department examined Sama's phone and found all the conversations proving her relationship with Mossad and the details of their plan to kill Antar. They also discovered that Sama and Mossad had been planning the crime for months, from April 2019, when the idea of fake medical visits began, until October 2019, when the murder was carried out. The investigation took time because the police wanted to gather all the evidence. They interviewed Antar's neighbors, who confirmed that Sama had been acting strangely in the days before his death and that she had been asking conspicuously about his possessions. In November 2019, the forensic report came out, and it was shocking. It proved that Antar had died from poisoning, and that the poison had been administered to him in varying doses over the course of 15 days, from October 1st to October 13th, 2019. The report clarified that Antar's body had tried to resist the poison, but the final dose in the fish meal was what ended his life. The investigation also uncovered that Ahmed, the pharmacist, had known about the plan, which made him a secondary suspect in the case. When Sama and Mossad were confronted with the phone conversations and the forensic report, they couldn't deny it. In the interrogation sessions during November and December 2019, they fully confessed to the crime. Sama admitted that she had planned with Mossad to get rid of Antar and that she was the one putting poison in his food every day. Mossad confessed that he had obtained the poison from Ahmed and had helped Sama execute the plan. Ahmed, the pharmacist, initially denied involvement, but when confronted with evidence, he admitted to supplying Mossad with the poison, though he claimed he didn't know it would be used for murder. The case went to the criminal court of Shebin el-Kham in December 2019. The hearings were long and full of details. The defense team for Sama and Mossad tried to argue that the evidence wasn't strong enough and that the death could have been natural, but the forensic report and the phone conversations were far stronger than any defense. The court heard many testimonies, including Sherbat's, who spoke of her suspicions from the start, and Mahmoud's, who revealed the secret of the phone. Investigations also proved that Sama and Mossad had planned to seize Antar's assets after his death, such as his farmland and house, which made the crime even more heinous. In June 2020, the court issued its ruling: death by hanging for Sama and Mossad on charges of premeditated murder with prior intent. Ahmed, the pharmacist, was charged with aiding the crime and sentenced to 7 years in prison. In August 2020, the Court of Appeals in Shebin el-Kham upheld the death sentences for Sama and Mossad, officially closing the case. This story, my friends, is not just a crime story. It's a story about betrayal, about greed, about how a person can destroy everything because of evil thoughts. Antar was a respectable man who loved his family, loved his wife, loved his mother, but sadly, those closest to him were the ones who betrayed his trust. Sama and Mossad, instead of choosing the path of repentance, chose the path of crime and paid a heavy price. Sherbat, the mother who fought for her son's rights, was the one who uncovered the truth. Mahmoud, the friend who sensed something wrong, opened the door to justice. And Fatma, the little girl who didn't even understand what was happening, was the key to exposing the secret. This story is a lesson for all of us, that no matter how carefully betrayal is planned, the truth will always be stronger. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. If this is your first time watching the channel, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss anything new. See you in the next episode. Goodbye.